Let's see.
Right.
Not executed with power and harshness, only ghosts, which may disturb.
Wow.
Yeah,
Ralph, that was
coming
deep.
in with the heat. Yeah,
Yeah, he
I,
really came in.
I think you're spot on. I mean, we haven't really seen anything, I would say, crazy where everybody's just like, "Oh man, I can't believe that happened." Right? Every even the Facebook and Google fines that have popped out so far, they're all kind of slaps on the wrist. I mean, a billion to them is a slap on the wrist. To most people, so I don't. I think he's spot on. Like there hasn't been, I don't think a landmark case for GDPR where they've, I wouldn't say crippled a company, but like really laid the hammer down and said, you guys screwed up and you're going to pay the full price for that screw up. Andrew may have a better idea of any instances of, I guess, harsh punishment, maybe.
Well, I don't think there are such harsh punishments. I mean, I also spot on that. But I think the biggest fines that have been is the first thing that comes to my mind is the British Airways. It's
Oh
because of a
yeah.
small vulnerability in the website, so they have to pay up many billions, so many that so high a number that has not been on the record so far. So that's the first case that they call.
They're still
Yeah,
counting.
exactly. So usually the process of this, putting on the fines on them, the enforcement usually takes multiple steps. And with respect to Europe, also it gets a bit complicated with each country because there's somebody called supervisory authorities in each country. So if a person is executing their rights, or there's a case coming up in one country, say for example Finland, then that case could not be contested in another country. And there are these, so many complicating laws that are also there, like law enforcement directive directly conflicts with GDPR in certain cases. So, national security is one of the exceptions that is present in a lot of these laws. So, I don't really find a balance sometimes, like rightly put in the words like harshness. So it's not properly enforced. Well, I would second that, but I also see the latest trend is that some of these regulators, at least in the eastern part of the world, are quite very strict in their regulations. The UK ICO and I think the German and the Spanish data protection authorities are quite stringent. So it depends on the country. It depends on the people who are part of it. Because I also read another article that says that there's not enough staffing. There are not enough people to enforce this from
Yeah.
these regulators. So that's one of the reasons probably why they are not doing it. So it could be lack of funds, lack of a social status. So it's easy to find fault, but only when we go inside, we'd really find out why it is so. Yeah. And yes,
Looks
Ralph
like
is right here too. The fines are unfortunately not collected. In most cases, it is not because of all of these strong forces of nature that help these people out. And yeah, and they have a lot. They have a big legal group, a lot of lawyers working behind the scenes. So they have so much of power that they just and when most the ironic cases that I find is that some of these privacy organizations have good ties to the regulators also in many cases. So they talk behind the scenes or they talk under the table. So yeah, like every other organization or every other government sector goes, only time can tell.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like it's, even if the enforcement isn't that strong, at least like there's maybe the fear of enforcement. But I think the
Exactly.
fear probably applies to maybe smaller organizations versus bigger ones. Like if I was, Fortune 50 company with like billions in the bank, and I've got lawyers, probably as many lawyers as I do like engineers for whatever I'm building, then do I really care? Because I know I'm probably going to be able to fight this out for quite some time. And if anything, it'll be a slap on the wrist for us. It won't be that big of a deal. So, I mean, I think it kind of, um, you know, so if I was a smaller company, I'd be more scared because I'm not going to risk getting into this kind of trouble that I can't afford to get into. But a bigger one will just kind of consider any kind of potential fine as a cost of doing business. We've seen this with a lot of different fines in the past where not a lot of core changes happen just because a fine or some regulation gets handed down because they kind of consider it a cost of doing business, and it's kind of just another expense. Really, it's not like that crippling of a situation. So, yeah, that's not very good.